Hey guys, Spartan Jess here, and it's finally time to review and assemble the long-awaited set of the brand new Foundry Airsoft Magnum kits. And as a special occasion for everyone that's been following my channel, and also to celebrate the amount of support that Foundry Airsoft has provided for myself and the rest of the Halo Airsoft community, I'd like to dedicate this video as the channel's 4,000 subscriber special. We've come a long way together, and a long way we've yet to go. Now for the first half of the video, I'll be showing you how to assemble this kit onto your Airsoft Glock platform, while also providing you with specific information about this kit. And then afterwards I'll be speaking my mind about what I personally think about these kits. Even though this video is partially dedicated to Foundry Airsoft, I still plan to be as brutally honest as possible. So now that I'm done wasting your time, let's finally dive into this. And here's our box that consists of our Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit. Now this is the complete kit. This comes with the M6, the M6C, and the Socom variants. So let's open her up. And this is what comes with the whole entire kit. Here's the main front nose of your Magnum kit. This is for the original M6 portion that goes onto the top. This is our back slide. Here's our trigger or finger guard. Here's our Socom nose. That's compatible to fit a tracer unit inside of it. Here's the bottom portion of our trigger or finger guard. And hidden right here contains the top plate that cosmetically makes your Halo Magnum into the Halo 2 M6C model. And for our new addition is the RMR plate that's going to attach onto the top slide of your Glock. And underneath our RMR plate, there's a couple of bags of screws that's going to keep our Foundry Airsoft kit all assembled and held together. And also we have a plate here that connects to the back of our slide just to cover up this little cutout here. Now the reason why this is here is if you want to attach this kit onto a Glock 18C, this reveals a selector on the back. This kit also comes with an Allen key to help assist you with assembling this onto your Glock platform. And the last thing that's included with this kit is a little bag of a stick-on shims. Now Foundry Airsoft realizes that for this kit it could be a little wobbly for the front nose attachment on some Airsoft Glocks. So these shims will help reduce wobble. Now that you've been introduced to all the parts that are included with this Magnum kit, let's move on to the actual assembly. Now in order to start off our Foundry Airsoft Magnum assembly, we're going to need to learn how to take off the front and rear portion sights of our Glock platform. Now this is a Glock 17 Gen 4. This is the exact same Glock that I used on the older Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit. So what you do is you pull down on the two slits on the side of the Glock right here, pull back and then push forward, and that will reveal the bottom portion of your rear sight, which will show a screw that holds in the rear sight up here. I've already taken it apart. It was fairly simple to do. For my Glock 17, I had a little plate that was underneath the rear sight, so you'll have to take that apart as well. And in order to get to the front sight, you'll have to remove this spring, remove the barrel and hop up, and this will reveal the portion of our front sight. Now let's put our barrel and spring back into the Glock with the hop-up wheel facing towards you whenever you're putting the barrel in this way. And whenever you're putting the spring back in, make sure the larger portion faces towards the front of your Glock, like so. Now this is probably one of the biggest changes besides the injection molding of the Foundry Airsoft kit, is adding this plate onto our Cosmetic slide. Now this is where our top RMR plate comes in. Now there's two different ways that you can attach this depending on what platform you have to make your life a little easier during this assembly process. If you're using a Glock 18C, you could go ahead and attach this RMR plate right now. But if you're using a Glock 17 or 19, you might want to place your RMR plate inside of our Cosmetic slide. Keep this little side plate attached that covers up the rest of the slide of the Glock here. Now in my opinion, this is kind of personal preference if you want to keep this part or not, so just keep that in mind. So you want to align the top two holes right there with the two holes back here, and with this slit right here facing closer to the back side of our Cosmetic slide. So we align it there. Take your corresponding bolts and use our Allen key to tighten it up. Like so. Now depending on which way you've attached your plate onto your Glock, if you place it on before you put on the Cosmetic slide or if you put it already on the Cosmetic slide itself. For instance, I have a Glock 17, so it's going to be a lot easier for me to place my RMR plate into the Cosmetic slide first, because we are going to keep our selector plate concealment here. Now for this process, you're going to want to take your slide off, and right where the rear sight opening is, you're going to have our little plate slit right there align up with it. Just like so. And we're going to take our long Phillips head and tighten it up. And make sure it's pretty snug because you don't want any wobble and you want this to be as tight as possible. And just like that, that's how you attach your slide. Now let's put together our front nose of the Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit. First thing we're going to want to do is attach our finger guard at the bottom of the nose here. Exactly right there where it fits perfectly like a little puzzle. Attach our longer skinny bolts. And on the other side, you want to put a couple of nuts on there. Now the way that I tighten these is I hold the two nuts on this side with one finger. And with our Allen key, we just tighten it on this side. We got that portion of the finger guard attached. We're going to want to move on and attach this U-shaped bottom portion of the finger guard. This is going to wrap around the pistol grip of your Airsoft Glock. So what we do is we take one Phillips head, attach it at the bottom of the finger guard, and with a little lock nut, we put it on this side. We take our Phillips head and screw it tight. You don't want it to be a little too tight because at the end of the day, depending on what platform you have, like let's say you have a Glock 19, you want this to be flexible to move accordingly to the pistol grip. And now let's move on to attaching our nose onto our Glock platform. Now if this front nose portion seems to be a little wobbly whenever you attach this to the front of your Glock, Foundry Airsoft supplies these little sticky shims that you can put either into the interior of our nose here, or just like I did, I just kind of put it at the bottom of our little rail here. One on this side and one on the other. This will guarantee that the nose of our Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit is not going to wobble and be pretty much stabilized onto the front of your Glock platform. So let's just put our nose on just like that. You want to make sure that the bottom of your finger guard is wrapped around the pistol grip of your platform. And to keep the nose attached, we're going to put this large nut on this side, hold it with one finger, and with the biggest bolt that comes with the package, you place it on this side. Now you're going to need a different Allen key to tighten this one, so just keep that in mind. I usually keep a multi-Allen key tool with me. This is metric, so if there's ever like a different size I need to tighten up these bolts with, I usually have this on hand. You want it nice and snug, but not too extremely tight. And just like that, our nose is attached. And now let's move on to the fun part. This is where we get to decide what kind of cosmetic adaptation we want for our Magnum kit. First, let's start off with the Halo 2 variant. It's very easy and simple. It's this little tiny plate, and you just place it on top of this rail like that. And from here, we attach two medium bolts and two nuts onto this plate. Now the exact same thing goes for the other two top portion additions. For this one, it's a little bit more tight, so you kind of want to slide it in from the front. This is going to represent the original OG Magnum with a little hole to aim through that goes through our cosmetic laser up top. And finally, we have the Socom variant. For the Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit, this is personally my favorite edition, especially since it's tracer compatible now. Just keep in mind, if you want to use tracers with this Socom Magnum kit, you're going to want to use something small like the Bifrost. So this fits perfectly inside of our Socom nose there. Just for an example for a tracer you can't really use for this kit, I have the lighter BT tracer, and unfortunately this is going to be a little too long to stay inside of the Socom nose. So now let's attach the last two bolts of this kit. Now admittedly, this is not my favorite part about the whole assembly process because putting these two bolts up top can be a little cumbersome at times. For instance, you kind of have to hold this bolt in, but also tightening it on one side. But at the same time, there's a little bit more room for the nut inside up here to kind of move around a little bit. So what I usually do while tightening it is I have the Allen key that I'm going to tighten the bolts on one side while holding the other nut on the other side to keep that nut in place. It's also hard to do this on camera, so just keep that in mind. And that's how to completely assemble the Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit onto your Airsoft Glock platform. Alright, so now that I've shown you how to attach this kit onto your Airsoft Glock platform, now's the time that I share my own personal opinions about these kits. First off, they are completely different from the older 3D models durability-wise. Being injection molded, it almost feels like it's a very nice tough polymer feel instead of having that 3D print stability to it. So that's a great significant change. And as part of the wear and tear of the older model that I had, the finger guard was very wobbly just because it didn't have that little U-shape attachment like the new model does, preventing any kind of wobble in the finger guard whatsoever, which is another great improvement. I was surprised to see that this kit can actually fit onto a Navrich SSP-18. In the comparison photos I'm showing you right now, the older Foundry Airsoft kit is attached to my Glock 17, while the new Foundry Airsoft kit is attached to the Navrich SSP-18. Now the slide could be a little finicky due to the RMR plate trying to attach into the empty slot of the rear side of the SSP-18, but you can get it to work. There are some subtle differences between the new kit and the old kit. The older kit had a good amount of detail in it, but was a bit more rough and rugged looking, while the newer kit has a more sleek and smooth look to it. And speaking of the rear sights for these airsoft platform slides, specifically for my Elite Force Glock 17 Gen 4, there's a little black plate that's kind of hidden underneath the rear sight. So once you remove that, in order to have the full empty space for the RMR plate to fit in, and that's how you can get your Cosmetic slide to attach nice and smoothly on top of your Glock slide. I'm not sure if some other Glock models have that little black plate underneath their rear sight, but if you do, well, just keep that in mind. Also, make sure to check your screw compatibility with the RMR plate specifically. Whenever I got my package, the screws that I needed to attach my RMR plate to the Cosmetic slide were in a different bag instead of being in the bag that was with the RMR plate. So if you have fitting issues at first, make sure to check the other bag as well for the necessary screws. Now, the one nitpick and gripe that I had about this kit was specifically attaching the M6C, the M6G, and the Socom nose. So whenever you're attaching this portion of the kit onto your Glock, there's a little bit more space for the nut to move around in whenever you're putting the bolt in to kind of tighten the two together. It's a little bit frustrating, especially whenever you're just trying to tighten it on there. You need to hold one side with an Allen key and the other side with another Allen key to tighten it up. Foundry Airsoft is aware of this, and they're looking into ways right now to help improve that aspect of the assembly process. But other than that, that's really my only gripe about this kit. It's definitely a more improved version of the older 3D printed models for sure. Everything else about this kit I was a big fan of. I love that there was a bit extra hardware for me to attach onto this kit if I needed it. The U-shaped extension for the finger guard is a great addition to prevent wobble at the finger guard. The fact that the Socom variant has tracer compatibility now is a great improvement as well. And the fact that these kits are injection molded instead of 3D printed, making it more durable and a nicer product overall, is a great step forward. If you'd like to get your own Foundry Airsoft Magnum kit, they're no longer on Etsy, but instead they do all their sales through their updated website now. You can get the M6C, the M6G, and the Socom variant separately if you like, or you can have them all bundled together. Foundry Airsoft plans to release the magazine bases as 3D files for free on the website, so if you ever need more, you could always download the file and 3D print them yourself. And Foundry Airsoft also went out of their way to create a manual to show you how to assemble this even further if you'd like to look into it. If you've seen some photos I've been putting into the corner of the screen during the assembly, those photos are from the manual itself. And it's been confirmed that Foundry Airsoft is working on the battle rifle project next. And that about does it. I hope you enjoyed this review and assembly video. As being the very first Halo Airsoft Magnum kits to be created back in the day, Foundry Airsoft is more than qualified to be part of this 4,000 subscriber special. Again, I'd like to thank Foundry Airsoft for the continued support, and as well as yourself for being here and following the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget,
this is truly Combat Evolved.